So I'll be discussing about radio communications. So again, before we start, this is your instructor, Elaine. So, so the radio communications. So this is the lifeline at the sea. So it we will be emphasizes the radio communication is not just a convenience, but an essential system for safety, security, and daily operation that keep global trade moving. So why is this maritime communications are critical? Or why is this very important? So as I said earlier, the maritime communication is very critical for safety, ensuring the immediate response to the emergencies, and for operational efficiencies, coordinating ships movements, as well as the port operation and the commercial trade. So by this, it enables clear, standardized communication for cargo handling, customs, search and rescue, and crew coordinations, preventing the misunderstanding and accidents. And additionally, it secure the communication is vital to protect against the cyber attack, which can disrupt the global trade and compromise the operations. So I said, so I have here for safety. So I have for emergency response. So communication allows for distress calls during the emergencies like fires or medical issues. It enables the quick response from other vessel and rescue services. Another one is the navigation and collisions avoidance. So meaning that the modern communication systems, it integrate with navigation tools to improve the situational awareness, helping ships avoid collisions and navigate the safely, especially in challenging or there's a unpredictable or very challenging weather. Another reason also that we need to consider is the crew safety and coordinations. So reliable communications, it ensures that the crew members can coordinate tasks and report issues crucial for safety during the emergencies and in managing the operations on board. We also have here another reason is the for operational efficiencies. So because um by this section, it will includes the port operations, pilotage logistics, and fleet management. Because shipping is a logistics-driven industry. So communication is essential for arranging the port entry, coordinating with the pilots and tugs, and allowing the companies to manage their fleet for maximum efficiency and profitability. So here, in the port coordination, so communication between ships and port authorities is very essential for scheduling arrivals and departures, coordinating the cargo handling, and managing the customs procedures. Another one is the commercial operations. So efficient communication, it facilitates the exchange of cargo, related information, invoices, and documentations, streamlining international trade. And still under the operational efficiency is the search and rescue. So effective communication is very vital for coordinating these SAR efforts. So by this, it allowing the authorities to pinpoint the locations and deploy the rescue teams promptly or accordingly. Another reason here why the maritime communication is very critical is also for the security and compliance. So anti-piracy measures, vessel tracking, and coordination with the naval forces. So in high-risk areas, communication allows the ship to report a suspicious activity, receive the security alerts, and coordinates with international naval patrols. So the system like LRI type, it allowed the authorities to track the vessels for the security purposes. So here, secure communication systems are crucial to prevent the cyber attack. This also can corrupt or compromise the critical data and operational systems, which is the prime targets for the criminals. So you need to, it's very important also regarding the security. So by this is the what we call the cyber security. Another one is the international regulations. So the standard communication phrases, like those developed by the International Maritime Organization, or what we call the IMO, they ensure the clarity and prevent the misunderstandings across the different languages and cultures. So we can also add here, so again, why this maritime are very critical. So we have the safety, regarding the safety for the operational efficiency and security also. We can also add here about the crew welfare. So the seafarers, they spend months away from home. So the ability to call the family or access the internet is a massive boost to the mental health and morale. So which is very crucial for uh retaining the skilled workforce. And we can also add here the regulatory compliance. So this is about the fulfilling the international and national mandates. So the international treaties like the SOLAS, they mandate that the ships carry specific communication equipment. So failure to comply can result in fines, detentions, and the vessel being declared unseaworthy. So it's very also to um it's very important also to consider the regulatory compliance. So I have here, it's about the a brief history of communication at the sea. So how they going to communicate in our past centuries. So before here, I have here, as you can see, the early method or the pre-19th century. So before that, we also have what we call the ancient times. So how they communicate in the sea during the ancient times. So by that, they're using the flags or the semaphore, signal lamps, and the horns. So these methods were entirely dependent on the line of sight and clear weather. So by this, they making them unreliable and very short range of communication. So the early method are the pre-19th century. So before the inventions of electronic communications, sailors or the seafarers, they relied on the line of sight and the audible signals. So first is the shouting and speaking trumpets. So for the short distances, the human voice was amplified. So the ancient Greeks, they used a speaking trumpets as early as the 5th century before Christ to communicate between the nearby ships. So they also using the humming pigeons. So the birds are used to carry a physical messages. So primarily between the ships and shores. So they were reliable as long as they were sent towards home. So they also use some pigeons for way of their communications. Another one is the sound signals. So these methods such as the bells, the drums, horns, and cannon fires were used to spend or send the simple signals, especially during the poor weather conditions like the fog. Lighthouses also featured as a sound signals. We also have here, as I said earlier, the flags, beacons, and flares. So during the day, flags were used to send simple, pre-arranged messages. So at night, the beacons, torches, and flares could be used to or could be used as a signal. So upside down national insights are still recognized distress signals today. We also have here what we call the visual codes. So the first systematic flag signal codes emerged in the 18th and 19th centuries. So it allowing for more complex messages. So the International Code of Signals, which is still in use, was established in 1857. We also have here what we call the mechanical and electronical innovations in the 19th century. So in the 19th century, they saw a major advances in communication that broke the limitations of the line of sight. So this will be now the Cephomore. So this is the optical telegram system using a mechanical arms, was developed in France in 1794, and a version using the handheld flags was adopted by the navies for ship-to-ship and ship-to-shore communications in the 1800s. So it still remain reliable emergency backup even today. So next is we have here what we call the Morse code and the signal lamps. So this one, it invented by Samuel Morse and Alfred Vail in the 1930s. So the Morse code was a system of dots and dashes that could be transmitted over a long distance using the electrical wires. So at the sea, the ships use the signal lamps or blinker lights to flash a messages in Morse code. So making it in a effective form of communications at night or in the poor visibility. So I have here next, still under the regarding the history of the communications, is the radio age. So we are now on the radio age. So this is the early 20 or the mid 20th century. So in this stage or in this century, the invention of the radio at the turn of the 20th century. So this one, it revolutionized the maritime communication. So again, we are now in the digital and the satellite system. So these are the late century or late 20th century until the present. So this is the digital technology, and satellites eliminated communication blackouts at the sea. So by this, we have the satellite communications, or what we call the Inmarsat. So in 1960s and 1970s, they saw the development of the satellite technology. So and in 1979, the International Maritime Satellite Organization, or what we call the Inmarsat, this is the year that it was formed. So this provided the global coverage. So by enabling the reliable long distance voice and data communication even in a remote oceanic areas. Another one is the Global Maritime Distress and Safety System, or what we call the GMDSS. So, it implemented in the 1990s that the GMDSS integrated satellite and terrestrial radio system to create a comprehensive safety system. It made a distress alerts more immediate and rescue coordination more efficient. Next is the digital selective calling, or the DSC. So this is the technology that built into a modern VHF radios that allows the ship to send a automated distress signals and location data. So significantly, it's speeding up the emergency response. Lastly is the automatic identification system, or what we call the AIS. So the standard on the most vessel today AIS transponders broadcast a ship's position, speed, and the course. So this improves the situational awareness for collisions avoidance and the traffic monitoring in the busy waterways. So we are now in our the future maritime or the future of the maritime communication. So these now are the modern and the future trends in the maritime communication that focus on the connectivity, efficiency, and the resiliences. So on this era, we are now in the Internet of Things. So this is the ship will use the Internet of Things or the IoT sensors to collect and transmit the vast amounts of data on performance, fuel, and the environmental conditions that enhancing the maintenance and the operational efficiency. Next is the 5G and the LEO satellites. So the near coastal areas, the 5G networks will provide a high speed, low latency connectivity. Furthermore, a low Earth orbit or what we call the LEO, the satellites constellations like the Starlinks, they offer a higher bandwidth and lower latency than traditional geostationary satellites for a more seamless and continuous communications. And next is the cybersecurity. The cybersecurity, with the increasing the digitalizations of the maritime systems, cybersecurity is a growing concern to protect regarding the communication network from the threat. Because the world of internet is very wide. We also have the autonomous shipping. This one, the development of the autonomous ships will require a highly advanced, reliable, and integrated communication systems for remote monitoring and control. Lastly is what we call the hybrid system. So the experts, they suggest that the future will involve dynamic, adaptive systems which are switched seamlessly between the different network. I have here some key regulatory in the governing the bodies in the maritime. So this one is the key international maritime regulatory body in the International Maritime Organization or the IMO. So the UN agency that creates the global framework for the shipping safety, security, and the environmental protections. So the other important bodies that include the International Chamber of the Shipping, which represent the industrial and development regulations, and organizations like the International Organization for Standardizations and regional commissions like the Helsinki Communication or Helsinki Commissions, national agencies like the Philippine Maritime Industry Authority or what we call the Marina implement and enforce these international standards within their own countries. So first is I have here what we call in the it's an the IMO in the International Maritime Organization. So this is the principle of the global regulatory body for the shipping. So an UN specialized agencies that sets the international standards for the safety and the security and the environmental protections. So we have some international and intergovernmental bodies. So as I said earlier, so as you can see in here are the international organization. So first is I have what as I said earlier the IMO. So again the IMO, this is the UN specialized agency for the shipping and responsible for the setting in the international standards, including the conventions like the International Conventions for the Safety of Life at the Sea, or what we call the SOLAS, and the ISPS code, and also the MARPOL. We also have here what we call the International Chamber of Shipping or the ICS. So this is the principal body representing the international shipping industry which work with the IMO to develop and promote the global maritime regulations. I also have here what we call the ILA or the International Associations of the Marine Aids to Navigation and Lighthouse Authorities. So this is the international organization that works to harmonize the provisions of the marine aids to navigation worldwide. So according to the IMO's standard. Next is what we call the IHO. So the IHO, or what we call the International Hydrographic Organizations. So this an organization that provides the basis for the world's nautical charts and is essential for the navigations. Next is the ISO. So this one, or what we call the International Organization for Standardizations. So this one, it develops the international standards for various industries, or some of which are the applicable of the maritime activities, including also the safety. We also have here what we call the Helsinki Commissions, or the HELCOM. So this one, this is the regional organization that focused on protecting the maritime environment of the Baltic Sea. So if we have international, we also have the national and regional bodies. So this one, it includes now the Marina. So this is the Maritime Industry Authority in the Philippines. So this is the single maritime administration in the Philippines that responsible for implementing and enforcing the international conventions and related to the national laws. So the national maritime authorities. So most countries have a national authority. So they are the one responsible for enforcing the international and the domestic maritime regulations. So these government bodies, they just implement and enforce the international regulations at a national level. So they issue radio license and the operator certificates. So next, the fundamentals on how radio works. So the radio works by using the transmitter to encode the information into a electromagnetic radio waves, which are the broadcast through the air to a receiver. So the receiver or the receiver's antenna, this one, the antenna, it captures these waves. So which are converted to back into an electrical signal and encode the procedure sound or other data. So this process involves the fundamental principles of creating, transmitting, and receiving the oscillating electromagnetic waves. Okay, so we will be discussing this. So, I will explain the basic principle on how the radio are created and transmitted. So first is the transmission. Under the transmission is what we call the encoding. So the radio station or the transmitter takes the information and encodes it into a carrier waves. So this process is called the modulations. So we called it a modulations. Next is the antenna. We have here the antenna. So the transmitter uses the antenna to radiate these modulated radio waves into air. So an isolating electric current is then applied to the antenna, which generates the electromagnetic radio waves. So after the transmission is what we call the reception. So under the reception is what we call the capture. So this one, the antenna on a radio receiver captures the radio waves that are passing through the air. And next is the tuning. So the receiver is tuned on a specific frequency to listen to one radio station among all the waves it picks up. And lastly is what we call the decoding. So the receiver then decodes the information and embed into a radio waves. So this process is the reverse of the modulations. So earlier, when we say encode, that is what we call the modulations. But when we say decodes, so decodes, so this is the reverse of the modulations. Another step is the what we call the playback. So this one is we have here what we call the signal processing. So the signal processing, this is the decoded signal is amplified and processed to remove the noise and the other interference. And lastly, we have the audio input or output, sorry. So finally, the process signal is sent to a speaker. So this one which converts the electrical signal back into sound waves that you can hear. So here, the key concepts of this, how the radio works. So basically, the radio communication converts the electrical into a radio waves that travel through the air. And a transmitter sends the waves and receiver picks them up. So we have here now the what we call the frequency. So these are the number of waves passing a point per second. Different frequencies have different properties. So we also have here what we call the wavelength. So these are the distance between the wave crest. We also have what we call the modulations, imposing the information into a radio wave. So again, the frequency, think of it like a sound pitch. So the low frequency is like the bass note and the high frequency is like the treble note. So in radio, different frequency travel in different ways. So here the wavelength, this is the frequency and the wavelengths are inversely related. So the low frequency has a long wavelength and a high frequency has a short wavelength. So this is affects on the antenna size. While the modulations, this is the pure radio wave carries no informations. So the modulation is the process of the piggybacking your voice or data into that wave so it can be carried from the transmitter to the receiver. So, okay. So, I hope this will be all cleared regarding the frequency, the wavelength, and the modulations. So, again, so this will be all for today regarding the communication or the radio communications. So we will be continue to discuss some parts of it by our next meeting. So these are more other explanations or more discussion to discuss regarding this. So I hope, so again, this is your instructor Elaine for your English course or English Maritime course. And thank you all for your all listening.